Good afternoon and welcome to the 2027 Zoom meet and greet. Today we're going to be talking about ports in South America, Manta, Lima, Easter Island, and Pitcairn. So with that, let's get started. And there's a lineup for today. And here is the lay of the land. You can see that we'll be in Manta on the 11th of January. 2 days later, we'll be in Callao, Lima, which is the port for Lima, on the 13th and the 14th. It's overnight. And then there's 5 sea days till Easter Island on the 20th of January, 2 sea days until we get to Pitcairn. So we'll start off with Manta. This might be my first time to Manta. I've not been to Ecuador at all before. It's a new country and a new port. We'll be there from 5 in the morning till 4 p.m. on a Monday. It's we dock at a pier, but the pier is some distance from the town, and it's sort of a long walk. I don't know if you can walk there or not. It's probably walkable, but there's a shuttle bus. Based on my research, there's a shuttle bus that takes you to a cruise terminal, which is right across the street from a lot of attractions in the city. The U.S. dollar is the official currency, so no problems there. Safety, normal precautions, although some people say there's reports of crime lately, but I suspect in the normal tourist areas that'll probably be okay. No visa, cell service normal, and the taxis are available, but there's no meters used for tourists, they say. So check your fares in advance, and Uber is available. Things to do. The beach is right next to the cruise terminal. This is the main beach, and there's a boardwalk. You can get off the shuttle bus there, then walk along the waterfront there, and there's a lot of shops, restaurants, things like that. So it's a pretty nice thing to do if you just want to stroll around to this beach area right next to the cruise terminal. Then there's a town called Monte Cristi, which is the home of the authentic Panama hats. So apparently that's where the Panama hat was invented or first built, and that's about 20 minutes by car. Also, there's some tours that you can take there if you want to get a Panama hat. There's a wildlife refuge about 45 minutes south that's got, again, we're a tropical area, so there's a lot of monkeys and birds and stuff like that. And I would say probably if you want to do that, there's Hal has a tour going there, as well as other tour companies probably operating in that area. There's a Central Culture Museum. This is, again, right across the street from the cruise terminal. It's sort of an archaeological museum. There's a website on it. You can check it out, see if that's something you might find interesting, but it's very, very close. A lot of chocolate stuff in Ecuador, and there's nothing really close. There may be some local shops in the city that sell chocolate, I'm sure, but the chocolate factory, so to speak, and the tours are all sort of out of town, maybe 15, 20 minutes or so, and there's some tours that run out there. Another area is there's a central market, which is probably maybe a mile or so from the cruise terminal. You could walk that, and it's a typical kind of a market with fish and vegetables and meat, and then probably some kind of curios and things like that. Then there's also a fish market a little further east of the port, where you can watch the morning hustle bustle of fish and probably buy some fresh ceviche and things like that. Again, the top attractions. This is the beach that's right by the cruise terminal. You can see this overlooking shot that shows the boardwalk right there and the sand of the beach. Again, the cruise terminal drops you off very, very close to this. Monte Cristo, this is the home of the Panama Canal, the Panama hat rather, and you can buy a Panama hat anywhere from $10 to probably $10,000. So if you're interested in getting an authentic Panama hat, there's a lot of videos on YouTube about how you pick a hat, how you buy a hat, how you get a hat. There's a company called Modesto Hats, which you can look at their website. They are in Monte Cristo, but they also ship worldwide. So there's all kind of things to be aware of if you're looking at spending anywhere from $100 to thousands on a Panama hat. So do your research there if you're interested in the Panama hat. But you have a lot of choices at the home of the Panama hat in Monte Cristi. This is the wildlife refuge. You get about 45 minutes south. You probably want to take a tour there. You probably could maybe take a taxi, but I don't think there's much to do when you get there. So I would say look at the HAL tour, look at other tours to get to this wildlife park south of town. This is the museum that's right across the street from the cruise terminal. It's free. It's open when we're there, and there's a lot of pre-Columbian civilization kind of things, other tools, ceramic pieces, things like that. So if that's of interest to you, look at their website and check it out, and you may want to spend some time there. Again, this is the chocolate tasting. There's a lot of chocolate places in the Ecuador and in the Manta area, so you can go ahead and check out those tours. They'll take you out to one of these places, again, some distance out of town. This is a Central Market. I mentioned earlier you can walk there from the ship, and then below is the fish market, which is right on the coast. In fact, you can look at this picture. You can see when the cruise ship is there in the background, so it's not that far away. It may be a mile or so walking along the water. Looking at some of the food to try, ceviche, which is their sort of raw fish marinated in I think vinegar, things like that, or citrus rather, citrus. That's a very nice taste to it. Encebalodo, tuna soup, ceviche, I've never heard of that, fried green plantains, bolon de verde, and atún de plancha, a la plancha, which is a seared fresh tuna. And what to buy, of course, is Panama hats, carvings, some straw crafts, chocolates, and then more tuna, because this is like a tuna capital of the world, allegedly. So here is a map that shows you some of the things I talked about. There is the cruise ship off on the end of that little jetty there, I guess it is. And then there's the museum and the beach right down there as shown. The cruise terminal is pointed out there. Central Market there, maybe a mile from the cruise terminal. A tuna monument. If you walk down that street there, maybe a half mile, there's a large tuna fish stuck on a pole. A little bit further on is one of those signs you see everywhere that has the Manta spelled out. If you like taking a picture of one of those, there's one there. And then further on down the beach is the fish market and another sandier beach along there. That's sort of lay of the land. Manta, I'm told, is a very popular town for expats from the United States. So you'll probably find a lot of things that they'll be doing there as well. The HAL shore excursions are listed here. Again, they have the chocolate adventure. You can see that one there in the center. Take you to a chocolate farm in the Manta and Monte Cristi, which is a place that takes you to the Panama Hat place if you don't want to take a taxi or Uber there on your own. And then there's the national park there at the bottom, Macaya, which is the forest and sort of wildlife area there. Also, Manta is the launching point for many overlands trips. There's a Cusco trip, and there's a gold and silver version. And if you look on YouTube, I think Gary Bembridge, a YouTube guy, he does a lot of videos. Tips for Travelers, I think, is his channel. He actually did a video review of the gold tour just within the last year or so. So if you're interested in that overland tour, search out Gary Bembridge, Tip for Travelers, and he has a pretty good 20-minute video about that whole experience with the Holland America overland tour. It's pretty pricey, but if you want to go there, then it's maybe worth it to you. I looked at doing this on your own, and unfortunately, I did this trip myself a couple times on my own, but I did it from a pre-cruise where I didn't have to worry about timing so much, because there's a lot of moving parts going to Cusco and Machu Picchu. a flight, train ride. A lot of things can go wrong, and the downside, of course, is if you miss the ship, but for any reason, the next port is Easter Island, 5 days away, and then Easter Island is no sure thing. So you can end up, really, if you miss this ship in Ecuador, you may not see the ship again until Papeete, which wouldn't be good. So I would say if you're going to be interested, take the HAL tour, because even though the HAL tour can miss the ship too, but at least I guess they'll put you up in hotels easier than otherwise. There's a trip here to the Ecuadorian Andes, overland there. I don't know that much about this. I didn't research a whole lot to it, but that's an option if you're interested in that. And then there's the Galapagos Islands. You can take that one and go out to those islands there and check that out, and then come back to Manta. Okay, so let me pause here now for a second and open the floor to any questions or comments. And I'm eager to hear people who have been there themselves, what their experiences are. Because again, I have not been to this port.
I have a question, just because you mentioned that this was the tuna capital of the world. On the past world cruise, did they bring in a lot of fresh fish when you had places that had fish, that they were known for their fish?
Yes, they did. Holland America is well known for having a lot of fresh fish on board. So yes, absolutely, they'll do that.
I have a question.
Okay.
What did you say the name was of the fellow that did the YouTube video on Overland Tour?
Gary Bembridge is his name, Gary Bembridge. But I think if you Google "Tip for Travelers" is his channel name.
Okay, thank you.
Tip for Travelers. So if you're on that tour or thinking about that tour, he's and his overall impression, when he liked it, he did the gold version rather than the silver version, and the difference was the sort of the quality of the hotel. One was like a 6-star hotel, and one was like a 4-star hotel. So basically, like going Ritz-Carlton versus the Marriott, something like that. But anyway, so check it out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I did Machu Picchu with Hal in the silver, and it was great. And like you said, if you're going to go to Machu Picchu, I've known people who've done it independently, and I've known people that have done it with Hal. I did it with Hal as a single and had the best time up there. My husband wasn't able to go with me, and it was great. And the difference was the hotel between the gold and the silver.
I think there's a different train ride too involved. I think the gold gets a luxury train ride or something like that.
To me, it made no difference. You're with Hal on the same train.
Yeah. Oh,
All
okay.
the people were with Hal, and so we had fun on the silver.
Okay. Okay.
I've been there. Lee and I were there, but it was quite a long time ago. And I just dug up my journal, and in those days, our travel agent was with Distinctive Voyages, so we did one of their tours that day. And just to let you know, I suspect it was with some private agency or whatever. I don't know who. But we did an excursion called Manta in Depth, and it covered a lot. We went to the shipyards and saw them building ships. We went to the place where they make the Panama hats. Lee just put mine on my head. It's this only time I've ever worn it, except that day. And it was a real demo. I mean, they showed you how they made the hats from the plant through the preparation to the actual making of the hat. And you could buy quite a range of hats. I mean, we went with one of the cheaper versions in those days was $35, which I'm sure now is a whole lot more. But there's a lot to see there. And then I noticed in my notes afterward, we went to the market. I indicated that it was very interesting and colorful. We saw lots of handicrafts being made, even in the market. And the coffee is very good there. And the town itself, I noticed, was very colorful and very friendly. So, and there were shuttles involved. So I noted that we walked through the very colorful streets until it got too hot and we took the shuttle back.
Now, when you bought your hat, there, Patrice, was that, did you get one of the $10,000 hats, or is that like a $100 hat?
Ours was in those days $35, which we each bought one. They were not the cheapest in those days, but they were not, what did I write in my notes? We didn't spring for the most expensive, which is super fino. That's the most expensive. But these were considered good ones, and they do roll them and put them in a very lovely presentation wooden balsa wood box. But again, I wore it that night at Panama Hat Night, and ever since it's been on a little pedestal in our house as decoration.
Great.
But it is the real thing. And it was very pleasant. So Manta is a very pleasant place.
Thank you,
I have
Patrice.
one more question. How much walking or stairs are there if you do the Machu Picchu trip with Hal?
There is. Let me think now. So I did it. So you're gonna take you go to the airport, you fly there, no walking there. You go to a train, no walking. So I think when you're walking around Machu Picchu, there is some walking and stairs around the actual site itself, and that's unavoidable there. But I think in terms of other parts of the tour, I don't think there is much walking that way. Please, but someone said they were there already, so go ahead and chime in, please, on that. You were actually there and did that.
So I was there last year in 2025 on the pole to pole. There is walking, like you said, in the actual digs and all that on the top of the mountain. And it's strenuous at that time. And there were a lot of people that did have issues. They do have two trails you can do. One is more strenuous than the other. So if you feel it's too strenuous from the beginning, once you get up there because of the altitude, you need to let the tour people know ASAP. Because there are some people that did struggle with it.
And there is, when I went there, you didn't have timed entries and things like that, but now they have timed entries, which Hal will take care of that for you. And apparently there's maybe 3 routes inside the digs that you can go on depending on whatever. So it's more complicated than I did myself. And so thank you for the people with the year-old experience. But again, look at that video from Gary Bembridge, because he has a pretty good description of it that shows you a lot of stuff.
Yeah, when I was there a few years ago, I was on a private tour, and I think there were about 10 of us. I don't know, it was a while ago, 10 to 12 of us. And I would really look closely at it, because out of that group, I was the only one that went back out in the afternoon to see the whole thing. Everybody else said they couldn't do it. And I was the only one. I said, well, I'm not coming this far without seeing it all.
Yeah, because the altitude is pretty high. So you spend the night in Cusco, I think, is like 12,000 feet. That's pretty high. In Machu Picchu itself is like 7,000 or 8,000 feet. So it's not as high, but still is pretty high. And so you talk about you should get high altitude sickness medicine, things like that. And I would say talk to your doctor on that.
It's not just the altitude, it's the climbing and the uneven steps and which are fun. They make it authentic, but it's not easy.
You're absolutely right,
Did you know
Karen,
for way
because
less than the cost
I
of
happen to
this
be in
cup
my
of
early
coffee,
60s doing it, and I'm physically fit. And there are other people, and I run marathons to give you an idea. And there were people that did struggle with it. And what I did was I got oxygen from the hotel. I didn't buy the can. The cruise line offers you a can and stuff, and I oxygened every single night that we were there because it's a quick trip. It's not like you have days to recoup. You get up, you get there, it's an all-dayer. From the time you get off the plane, you have lunch, and then you go to the church, and you go here and there, and then you go to bed, and then they have you up at 5 o'clock in the morning again to get you up the hill, up the mountain. So it's a fast trip. So it's strenuous like that. And when they say strenuous, it's strenuous.
We actually stayed in the hotel that's
I
right up
abandoned
there
my
on
ship.
top, which is like a really, really expensive hotel. But it gave you one night of extra, what do you call it?
I abandoned my ship mid-cruise for
Adaptation
3
to the-
days to see one.
So anyway, yeah, I found this video. It's called "Tips for Travelers." Is the website? Let me throw it on the screen here for a second. And
One of the most iconic sites in the world, Machu Picchu. But after I booked the eye-wateringly expensive $5,000 excursion and started looking at the details, I started to appreciate just how much could go wrong. Welcome aboard. I'm Gary Bembridge, and join me to discover.
okay, so nothing goes wrong in his video, but he's trying to suck people into it. So anyway, so that's a good video to watch. Again, the YouTube channel is Tips for Travelers. Search on Machu Picchu, and it's about a month old, so you'll find it there. Okay, anything else on Manta? Okay, let me go to the next port then. Okay, there's the Machu Picchu. Next port is going to be Lima, Peru. We'll be there on the 13th and the 14th of January 2027. Again, that pronounced as Callao is the town. The port will be into actually the industrial port, and this is a very industrial port, huge port. There's multiple piers there. I was there on a couple of times. We were at different piers each time, so you really can't tell exactly where we're going to be. But they all seem to take you out what's called Gate 3. And some people talk about there's a shuttle that'll take you to the gate, drop you off at Gate 3, then you can get taxis from there. Other people recently said, no, you don't have no option to go to Gate 3. You're going to get on a shuttle bus and go to Miraflores or potentially San Miguel. Hal's also selling a Lima on your own tour for like $40. It takes you to some unknown place for like a 6-hour on your own kind of a thing. So it's hard to say exactly where we're going to end up on the shuttle buses here for this particular port, but there'll be some kind of shuttle bus arrangement made. And when you look at tours, if you do an independent tour, research some of those, they're all aware of this, the tour operators, and so they'll say, okay, we'll meet you at Miraflores, or we'll meet you at San Miguel. And in many cases, the tour operator may know exactly where the ship's going to run their shuttle bus almost more than we do, because these guys are obviously pretty well plugged into the whole tourist thing there. The money there is a Peruvian sol. Exchange rate $1 is worth about 3.5 sols. Some tourist places may take U.S. dollars, but you're probably going to get some kind of a horrible exchange rate as typical. So most places don't take credit cards anymore, but nevertheless, it's always good to have some kind of a local currency just to give yourself some options. Again, safety, they say increased vigilance necessary. This port, and they say do not, under any circumstances, walk around right outside the gate in the Callao area. It's pretty pretty risky business there. No visa, cell service is normal. There's taxis there. Only use official taxis. Don't use a car with some guy driving around with a handwritten taxi thing in his window. And then Uber is also available. Things to do. There is the historic center in downtown Lima, and there's a HAL tour that goes there. Miraflores, that is the sort of the touristy area. It's very nice. You can take the shuttle bus there, probably shuttle bus going there, and just spend the day walking around. There's a nice mall, a lot to do in that whole area there. Shops, restaurants, museums, you name it. That whole area there is quite pleasant. Barranco is relatively close to Miraflores. You can go there and hang out there and probably go from one to the other if you feel like walking a little bit and spend your whole time in that area. There's a Larco Gold Museum, maybe 5 or 6 miles away from Miraflores, and HAL offers a tour there. Again, there's a lot of nice food there. Ceviche and pisco sours are available here in Peru. So if you're interested in that stuff, I strongly suggest you get the ceviche because it's really, really good here, as well as the pisco sours. And again, there's a place called Pachacamac. Maybe pronounced that incorrectly, probably, but it's an Incan temple ruins. It's pretty huge, and there's a HAL tour that'll take you down there, or you can probably arrange something on your own. Here's the lay of the land there in Lima. There is upper left shows you where we'll be in Callao, and then there's the other highlights. San Miguel is one shuttle stop. I was on a tour ship that they dropped us off here. The other one, that most recently, is Miraflores. They drop you off down in this area somewhere, maybe at the Larcamora Mall. And then Barranco is there. Nice little tourist. This whole area here is this tourist area from Miraflores to Barranco. Then downtown Lima is over here, some distance away from Miraflores. This is more of an older, traditional part of town. The Gold Museum's off there on the right, and then way off 40 miles or so out of town is the Aztec ruins. This is the historic center of Lima. There's a cathedral there, and that's a typical South American capital city downtown. There's Miraflores, the aerial shot of that shows you the sort of the very built-up touristy area with nice walkways along the cliffs and some great views there of the seaside district there. There's also called the Parque de Amor, the Love Park. And there's interesting statues in that park. Larco Museum, this is the Gold Museum. Again, there's a HAL tour that goes there. If you're into gold, you can check that out. All kind of gold. Barranco, this is another touristy area, and it has what's called the Bridge of Sighs. And the legend goes that if you hold your breath while you walk across the bridge, your wishes will come true. So you make a wish, you hold your breath, and walk across this bridge, and then if you make it to the other side without taking a breath, then you're good to go. And this is the ruins that are some south of town that you can take a tour to get out there and check out. They're pretty elaborate, pretty big. So if that's something that you find interesting, you can go ahead and check it out. Food to try, again, ceviche is going to be very popular. I strongly suggest you give that a shot. Lomo saltado, stir-fried beef with onions. Again, ají de gallina, spicy shredded chicken stew. Anticucos, I've never heard of that before, but I was reading it here. It says the grilled beef heart skewers from the street grill. And then pisco sours, of course. What to buy? Alpaca, a lot of alpaca things here in knitwear. Silver jewelry, hand-woven textiles. Again, pisco, you can buy pisco liquor yourself, and the ship will keep it for you till the cruise is over. And then coffee and chocolate. HAL excursions. A variety of tours. This is the city and culture tours. They have a sort of the best of Lima. Drive around, see all the big highlights there. A tour takes you to downtown, center of town. You can walk around there. The other one takes you to the cathedral and check that out. Then there's the Colonial Lima with the Gold Museum, and another one that goes to the Gold Museum. There's a lot of choices there to see various things we talked about briefly earlier. The other Halleck shore excursions, you can of course rent get a private driver if you want to do something your own. Those are available. The prices aren't as crazy as they are in some other places. This is the one I talked about, Lima on your own, $36, which takes you to a central spot. Doesn't say where exactly, but maybe the Plaza Mayor down there, and it's drop you off there and brings you back in a couple hours. And then the Indian Market and an Easy Lima, which is driving around through the city. And then finally, there seems to be there overnight. There are some overnight possibilities. They have an evening drive, a Lima by Night Magic with the fountains. This one here is Mark at the Table, a taste of Peruvian cuisine. That looks like it could be fun. And the one also caught me was evening city drive and dinner at Casa Aliaga. Apparently, this Casa Aliaga is a huge mansion that they're going to open up for the evening, make a nice dinner, and you get to hang out in this mansion. And it's right downtown there. That could be interesting. And then this one here, Wildlife Lovers Paradise. That way you take a boat, which is, say, if you're seasick, you probably don't want to do that one because it's a small boat, runs you out to this island, maybe 5 or 6 miles offshore, and you can swim with sea lions. Now, bear in mind that the water temperature of the Pacific Ocean here is going to be about 70 degrees, which is quite cold, and so the wetsuits are provided. So you got to be able to crawl into a wetsuit, put up with this 10-minute fast boat ride or whatever, maybe longer than that, and then you get to swim with sea lions. But if people go out there, it's got great reviews. So if that's something you find interesting, then I would do a little more research on it, and you may want to jump on that one. It's only $110, which is for a tour like that is typically, I thought it'd be more expensive. Okay, so let me pause now for a second, and then open the floor to people who have their own experiences to share questions.
When I was there, I was going to say last year, but I guess it was 2 years ago on the Pole to Pole. I did a private tour that saw all it was a really good tour, but the fountains at night, the magic waters, those are pretty cool. And that Hal price didn't look too bad for that, considering. The one thing I did that was fun is not on the map anywhere is Kelly and I took the shuttle to Miraflores, and then we walked to a market that I don't remember the name of the market, but it's huge. I mean, it was huge, and it's in 2 parts. It's a long walk, but we did it, and we were going to walk back, but she bought a lot of stuff, so we took a taxi back because it was too much to carry. She's a shopper. But anyway, that market, I'd like to go to that market again. It's like,
now, Karen, when you say you took a taxi back, where did you take the taxi back?
back to we took it back to Miraflores.
Okay, back to Miraflores.
And it was only like $10 or something like that. Kelly paid for it because she was the one that did all the shopping.
Okay. Anyway, okay. Let me.
This is Joe. I will say that I've done most of these things, and they were all very interesting. The Larco Museum, etc. I did take several of these with a private tour company, and I was looking. My blog, ridearounddeck.com, if you just go there and use the search box for Lima, you'd find it. But in the last year, I put together another tour with them. They're just excellent. And the guy who owns it came out of the barrios. I forget what they call it there. It's a different name. But has a very successful tour company. Another group, which it was a cooking tour, and their offices are, I think, in Miraflores now. And they went there and did a whole cooking. And we put together last time, I called them and just said, or emailed, we wanted to put together our own tour that was an afternoon tour of these places and then dinner before we went to the magic fountains. And we went to their offices where they have a dining room and had a great dinner for us. And, so there's a lot to do. And if I find it, I'll stick the name of the tour company. I have no personal interest in promoting them, but I've had multiple good experiences with them. And going to the Colonial downtown is very interesting as well. So.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, I did. I was here once before in 2018, and I did a tour with a company called Lima Gourmet Tour Company, and they did a lot of good food tours. So there's a lot of companies that are doing pretty good tours here in this area. So Joe, looking forward to your company name there.
I just found it. It's Haku, Haku.
Haku.
And they also do, several tours, like 2 or 3 day tours, I think, through Peru. But I'll put the link in the chat. So if you want it, that's just, I'm sure there are many good tour companies. I just have been very.
I just looked up my notes, and I also had made note of that market that Karen mentioned, the extensive, elaborate market. And also, Lee reminded me the changing of the guard is really fun. I have it in my notes as 11:45 every morning at the Palacio de Gobierno. It's the government palace of Peru. And you couldn't see a lot of the actual changing of the guard because of how they were placed, but it was a very impressive musical performance, marching band, an actual band concert where one of the local people told us they were playing music from each of the countries not just from Peru, but the countries that are in the vicinity. So that was actually kind of a highlight. And also we did, other than the shuttle, we did taxis and local bus, but the local buses got very crowded.
Wow. When were you there? When were you there, Patrice?
We were there ages ago. It was like 10 years ago. But I think a lot of this is the same because, Karen mentioned a lot of similarities, but we were actually there on the same dates. And I made note in my journal that when we went to the church, the one that's right in the center, they still had, for people who enjoy this kind of thing, a very elaborate nativity set up. So at that time of year, in that part of the world, they still have a lot of that type of thing on display.
I'm wondering, Patrice, if you were there on some sort of special day, because 2 years ago I saw the changing of the guard and everything, but there was no marching bands and special music and everything. So I was wondering if they've either changed that or you were hit a special day.
I think maybe it's changed then. Because I know when they mentioned it, when the port guide or whatever they used to call them in those days talked about the port, he did mention it as part of a daily situation. So maybe they've cut back. Possible.
Karen, when you were at the 2 years ago, did you have an option to take a ship shuttle to the port gate or only Miraflores?
Oh, I only remember Miraflores, but maybe that's just where we wanted to go.
Yeah,
I can't answer
I've been
that
reading
for-
other bloggers and stuff like that, and most people talk about they all take the shuttle to Miraflores. Some people go into San Miguel, and a few cruise lines say, "Oh yeah, we had a choice to go to the port gate 3, which is right by the downtown, right by the ship." So, but it looks like most HAL ships tend to go Miraflores for free, and you don't have any other options.
Yeah,
Pete,
I don't remember.
Pete, it's Joe. We went on the 25 World Cruise, and we took the shuttle to the gate because that's where you had to meet your tours. And that's when we did our Haku, the third, I think, Haku tour I did in Lima. But we, as I recall, met them at the gate. And so we must have had a shuttle to the gate, but they also had shuttles to Miraflores. And that was just
Okay.
a year ago on the world. Other people who were on the world might have had more experience, but I don't think you joined the world that year till the very end.
No, I wasn't. But and so in 25, you had an option to go to gate 3 right there by the ship, relatively speaking.
Well, I don't know if it was 3 because when the tour returned us, they returned us to a different gate, but that's where a shuttle was running. And they have police there at the gate. And at least the Haka tours that I've done, they always sit there with their van. It's a very small parking lot at the various gates. And they sit there with you until the ship shuttle comes.
Yeah.
And I also recall seeing police there. So, and in the morning, there were a lot of tours. So you had to wait a little bit to find your tour there. But I mean, I didn't feel afraid or anything, but they were very safety conscious. Sort of like in Egypt, they always have security on the van with you.
Yeah.
Even, you know, I don't know that's needed, but they just always do it. So it's sort of that kind of thing.
Yeah, but again, my research on these private tours, they're very conscious of the limitations of the ship, and they all will seem to know as much or more about what you need to do, where to meet them than you probably will until we get there. So that's
Yeah, and if you have WhatsApp or something, you know, to just check in with them, works fine. It's worked fine with me in the past. I have booked a Machu Picchu trip, and I'm thinking about canceling it because I love Lima so much. And so we'll see. But anyway,
were you doing Machu Picchu with HAL or on your own?
with cruise specialist.
Okay, cruise special. Okay.
So it has, you stay one night in Cusco, but then the other night you stay right there at Machu Picchu. I mean, I'm not greatly worried. My sisters went with Karen. I mean, they were on the pole to pole and did it, but this one does stay a night there. I lived during the pandemic in Santa Fe, and you know that's 7,000 feet, and I never thought about it. It's just Cusco. I know will be high, but
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on Lima? Okay, now moving on then to Easter Island. And Easter Island, I talked to some people there last time we were there this last World Cruise in 26, and they say there's a 30% success rate. But the guide there told me that in 2026 they had 100% going through it up and through the time we were there during our visit. So it changes with the weather apparently. So you never know how it's going to work out. But Easter Island, of course, is on the schedule for one day, and it's going to be a highlight for many people. Again, we'll be anchored there from 8 in the morning till 5. It's a tender port. The money is Chilean peso. Everyone there took credit cards. I didn't need any Chilean money. Everyone took U.S. dollars or credit cards. You're not going to get a great exchange rate with the dollars necessarily. But unless you're buying something super expensive, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Most people take credit cards or dollars. Safety is no problem. No visa required. Cell service is limited. I had some cell service when I was in the port area, but once I left the port area, the cell service didn't work. I think other people with different carriers have different experiences. I had T-Mobile, which wasn't great. I think AT&T had a little bit better, but hard to say. Taxis were unpredictable and not very many. I tried to get a taxi from the port area to the city. I wanted to walk around the town a little bit, so I was walking there. I think I walked by Patrice and Lee there, and a taxi, or it wasn't really a taxi. Some guy just drives up in the car with a taxi sign in his window, and he charged me like $10 to go to the town or whatever. So it was pretty expensive for the distance involved, but nevertheless, you're sort of a captive market there. So there, you can't really count on a taxi, but you may see cars driving around with taxis and a taxi sign in their window. There's like local people doing it for the day. I think if you get there earlier on, there might be some more official taxis that offer you to do a tour around the some of the sites with a taxi tour. Again, here's the lay of the land for Easter Island. There shows the tender pier where that is. The ship will be right offshore, and this is all the various spots that you're going to go to on the variety of tours. Now, all these other spots here are part of the national park system of Easter Island. You have to have a national park ticket to get in there. And a new rule in the last few years, you have to actually have a local guide. In the past, you could buy a national park ticket, take a taxi to one of these sites, and walk around there on your own. Now you have to hire a local guide to accompany you. You aren't just allowed to walk in independently any longer, except for the one here called Tahahi Moai with Eyes. That one's walkable from the ship, from the tender landing. You can walk along this road here. There's several nice restaurants along the way, and you can, if you don't feel like going with a tour, you can walk to the Moai with Eyes, and you'll find several good places to eat along the way. Again, there's private tours available. Easter Island Travel is one of them. Green Island Tours is another. They typically refund maybe 50% if you cancel. So keep that in mind. It's a little bit cheaper than the Hal Tour, but not crazy cheaper. And also be careful how they talk about what's included, because they may say, "Oh yeah, the tour is $160." You go, "Why? Oh, that's cheaper, way cheaper than the Hal." But they say, "Oh yeah, you got to pay separately $80 for the national park ticket," whereas the Hal, that's all built into the price. So be careful about your pricing on that. And the big advantage, of course, with these small tours, your groups are a size a lot smaller as well. So there's advantages, of course, on that. But then you're more at the mercy of the tenders and the tender tickets as well, than if you're on a Hal tour. I've been there twice, and I've taken the Hal tours both times because I didn't feel like fooling with the tender tickets. Sometimes they have priority for 5 stars, 4 stars, and President's Club. Other times they don't, so it sort of depends on that. But the last time we were there, just a few months ago, tendering was fine, no problem, and everyone got off as much as they wanted to, much as they could stand on that. But you never know. So I'd say my advice is, if you've never been to Easter Island, then I would take a Hal tour. If you've been there once or twice before, then of course you know what's going on, and then you can decide for yourself what you feel like doing. Again, the Hal tours are here. Ancient Cultures of Easter Island. You visit some of the platforms there, deep into Easter Island's culture. You go to see some dances and things like that as sort of a cultural center. And then this one here is intriguing to me. I'm going to research it some more, but it's the Easter Island Moai and Umu Feast, which is like $600 a person almost. And I'm going, wow, that's got to be a great feast. So I don't know. I'm going to try to find a YouTuber or something on that to see what's all involved with this. Apparently they cook a pig or something right in the middle of right underneath the Moai. So I don't know what the deal is with that, but we'll see. And then of course the Easter Island mystical Moai and highlights. That's the tour I've taken twice. The 9 o'clock is already waitlisted. The 1 o'clock is still available. And Easter Island panorama, and then trekking to Mount Teravaki if you feel like doing some hiking and seeing these 7 Moai on return. That's the only tour that sees one of the few tours that goes see actually the 7 Moai there. This is the bus. When you take a Hal tour, you're going to be in a bus like this, and typically there'll be one tour guide per 2 buses. And so you may be on a bus with the tour guide and he'll talk to you along the way, or you may be in a bus without the tour guide and you sort of like just look out the window on your way. Now we were on there a few months ago. Our bus had the tour guide and he was answering a question because he goes, "Don't tell anybody I'm talking to you, because if other people find out I'm talking to people on the bus, then they get mad because they were on the right bus with the right person." So whatever, anyway. So bear in mind that if you're on a HAL tour, you'll be on a bus like this with one tour guide per 2 buses. So if you take a private tour, of course, you'd be in a much smaller vehicle and have a more intimate experience there. This is the tent where you can buy a park ticket if you want to do it on your own. You come down here, you spend $83, and this gives you your pass to go there. Then you got to find a guide and a taxi driver to do that. So if you get there early, I think you'll find taxi drivers hanging around looking for people to take around if you want to do something like that. There'll be tents set up near the tender pier, and selling a wide variety of trinkets and T-shirts, and you name it, you'll find it here. And this is the Moai with eyes. That's the sign for that place. And here's interesting. I was there once in the middle of a field. This guy took credit cards. I mean, here he is in the middle of nowhere, and yet he had his Square on his phone, and he just popped it up, no problem. Charged me his credit card for a little $3 keychain or something like that. Again, this is one of the. You can walk to this spot here from the ship, tender landing. There's a Moai with eyes. This is a picture I taken, I think, back on the Amsterdam. This is an older shot, but it's a great shot because the ship was positioned better than it has been recently. There's the Moai with eyes again. Another shot. This is the old place where you can walk around the ruins where the digs were, and you'll go there on a lot of the tours. And this is the terrain. You'll see it's pretty steep, pretty uneven. So keep that in mind if you're on a tour that talks about doing that. Now, in most cases, though, you have an option to bypass that. You stay on the bus or do whatever. But a lot of people are walking up this hill to see these Moai up the sides of the mountain. You get pretty high. And this is looking down where the buses are down there at the bottom. And there's the how steep it is and uneven it is coming back down. There's one of the Moais there you can see, and this is the one that's more famous, the 13 Moai in a row. And there it is, Tankariki. You'll go there for sure. Most tours will go there. Another shot of that. This is the beach, I think, where they're going to do the $600 pig. I think this is where they do that, and a lot of tours will do here. There's one Moai there. This is a 7 Moai. I've never been to this part of the island and saw these 7. A few tours ago here. And then there's a few restaurants near the tender pier, and this is an example of one of them. And they all take dollars, and they have pretty okay food and cold beer. One thing different about this port compared to most ports is that there's for much of the day you may require a tender ticket to go back to the ship. So that's unusual. Most times you don't need that, but in this case you'll need a tender ticket to get back to the ship. And there's a tent there you can hang out while you're waiting for the tender. Okay, so let me pause here now and open the floor to anybody else's experiences about Easter Island.
This is Joe. It's not an experience that I had, but before I went the first time in 2020, I had heard, and some here may have been there, that on an earlier cruise, they had to shut down tendering ashore because the weather was getting worse and they were concerned about getting everyone back who was already ashore. And when they do that, they do tend to take people on HAL excursions first. So this is one place that I think it's probably well worth paying for a HAL excursion, and go ahead and get the earliest you can because, it increases your odds. So I've been 3 times and 3 tries, so I have much better odds here than Falklands. But anyway.
Yeah, I agree with Joe because I've been there. Last year was my third time, and the first two times only half the ship got off. I was lucky to get off, but then they did favor the HAL tours first. This last time,
They did take it?
they took HAL tours before, when they could tell that they were probably not going to make it. So this last time I walked, Patrice, we kept passing each other to those moais with the great picture with the ship and stuff. And it's a long walk. It's not a short walk. It's a long walk, and it was hot, but it was worth it. We got there, and lots of tours were there, and we went for free. But it was a nice walk. If you've already seen seen the other stuff, or if you don't want to pay that. But the other thing, what I'm going to do this time is I had plans to do this with Elaine, but Elaine's not going. So,
Sorry.
during that walk, I passed 2 or 3 places where they had created protected lagoons, for swimming with, steps in the park and stuff like that. And they're much closer than those moais. So this time I'm just going to go swimming in one of those little lagoons. It looked really inviting to me.
We were there about 10 years ago, and it was an overnight at Easter Island. And we were able to get in both days. But one thing we noticed was there are a lot of rental car companies everywhere, and because the Chilean Airlines flies in every day to Easter Island, and so that we found there were a lot of people there visiting, not just the cruise ships, but the recommended way to go to Easter Island is flying. The question I have, based on what you're doing with the new tariff of $80 to go to the park, if you go to that park with the eye, do you have to pay the $83?
No, that
No.
one's that's free.
That part is free. Because when we took the tour, they took us all the way around. We saw the moais everywhere. It's quite a fascinating thing if you haven't been before, especially the 13 and the 7 out by the beach are very nice as well.
Yeah, the change was before you could rent a car or whatever and drive around on your own, buy the ticket, and then go walk around the parks on your own without. Now you have to have a local guide, and you might be able to find a guide walking around the street. Who knows? But you can't just show up there in the car and go on your own. Now how they enforce that, I don't know. They may have guys there checking it out. A lot of times they don't. So like going on a subway, they may or not check your ticket or.
That was just something I noticed, and because people were renting cars because we were overnight, people were renting them and leaving them parked there, and they still had them for the second day.
Yeah.
And the captain said, nobody stay on the island overnight, because I don't know if I'll be able to pick you up in the morning.
I will say too, when I've done a number of interviews with news media about cruising, and they'll always ask your favorite place. And I say, and Elaine, it was Easter Island, and it wasn't the moai. It was sitting, drinking Machu Picchu's, waiting for the Tenderloin to get short from, I think, that restaurant you showed, Pete, which was closed last time because we were there on a Sunday, but this time we aren't. But this last time we walked past those vendor tents you showed, and a couple of blocks down the road was a restaurant, and we tried repeating the experience there. Karen, you might have joined me there. I don't remember. Elaine sent people to sit with me, but that is fun. And of course, Peru and Chile argue about who invented the pisco sour and owns it, but it's a fun way to pass the afternoon if you've been there before. But that moai tour, that was the top one on the second page you showed, which is just the basic tour. And I've done that at least twice, and it's a good tour.
Yeah, I'd recommend that tour as your entry tour. That's a good tour. Okay, Marty, welcome. See you there.
We have one question. So this is the way our first
Okay.
time to Ireland. In fact, we're going to be on the 28 tour. We're kind of eavesdropping on your 27 cruise. For our first time going to Easter Island, you mentioned that the mystical Moai is the preferred.
Yes. Yeah, I recommend that
The
one.
$310 one.
Yes.
So the only issue that I'm wondering about is, since I'm hearing about this issue on weather, in 28, it's only at 1:45 p.m., the tour. There is one at 10 o'clock that goes to Ahu Akivi. Anybody been to that one, and whether that's a better risk?
So in 28, they're only offering that tour once, and it's in the afternoon?
145, yeah, the Moai.
Huh. That's interesting. I've not looked at the 28 excursion to see what the deal on that is, though. I'll check that out.
Okay.
Unless they had the earlier one and it's sold out and gone.
Yeah, usually would say that, though. It'd say
Yeah,
sold
right,
out.
right.
Now, if you look in the details, you may see that. You dig into that, and maybe you would see that. Or I'd even call up Hal, excursion, and ask him what they know about that, because that's unusual. That starts in the afternoon like that.
But nonetheless, you would think that for our first time being
Yes.
at Easter Island,
Yes,
Well, we should take a look.
I would definitely
Even
do
the-
that one, the first one, even in the afternoon if necessary. But I would try to get one in the morning. And I'm surprised. I don't know what time the ship gets there, but typically,
I think we actually have more time than the 27th. We're there till 6 o'clock, and we arrive at 8 o'clock in the morning.
yeah. Now maybe it's still ways out. Maybe they'll add more tours later on. It's still some time away. So I don't know, but keep an eye on that one for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else for Easter Island before we move on to our final port?
What was the mystical tour that you free?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, our final discussion today will be Pitcairn Island, and we're going to be there on January 23rd, 2027, and it's going to be Bounty Day, which is the big holiday in Pitcairn Island, and they burned the ship, a replica of the ship, on the beach in Bounty Bay. And no one knows if they're going to. I'm sure they'll do something special, maybe when they come out to the ship. But whether or not they'll burn the ship, well, you can watch them burn the ship. I don't know. Who knows? I tried researching whether or not previous ships have ever been there on 23rd of January. I can't find any indication of that. But being there on Bounty Day is quite a unique experience for us, and we're looking forward to that. So the way this works is that we're there in the morning till noon, and you'll see the residents come out to the ship in a giant longboat, and they'll set up a curio market around the Lido Pool, selling a variety of logo items from Pitcairn Island, along with their famous honey, all taken U.S. dollars or euros, and then they'll have some toward later morning. They'll have some lectures which are very interesting in the theater. Then at the end, they'll have like an exchanging of keys or a thing between the captain of the ship and the mayor of Pitcairn Island. So there's the longboat that the people come out to the ship on. And then here is the mayor, Mayor Sean Christian, and his wife Michelle. He's been their mayor for a while. And there's also a pretty interesting history of this whole island, too. If you're into that, research some scandals in Pitcairn Island, and a lot of these people may be involved with those. So nevertheless, keep that in mind. But I'm not going to go into those now. But nevertheless, Pitcairn Island has an interesting history in the way it was founded to everything else. Okay, there's the honey with Pitcairn in the background, and then there's a picture of some of the vendors around the pool. It's pretty crowded initially, but then it calms down pretty quickly. So if you get there early, don't fret. They didn't really sell anything, my recollection. They had plenty of honey this time. Other years they ran out of honey, but this time they had plenty of honey to go around. They also would mail a postcard to you And I'm still waiting for my postcard to arrive, so I haven't got it back yet. It's been like, what, 6 months now, I guess? I don't know. So we'll see. And this is the stage when they say farewell, sing a song to the ship. And there's one another vendors selling various things. And then there it is. That's what we know at Pitcairn Island. Fun day. And let me pause now and let other people share their experiences, ask any questions about their time visiting Pitcairn Island. Marty, welcome. Are you in Switzerland? Sweden, or you gotta unmute yourself there. Okay.
We're still in Washington because the
It's not coming through.
plane was delayed. Chicago has bad weather.
Okay. You broke up. Are you in Chicago
Copy.
or Florida or?
Washington, D.C., waiting to go
okay.
to Zurich.
Wow. Okay. Good luck. And also Project Linus. Remember Project Linus, everybody. If you haven't been involved with that, remember to volunteer for Project Linus. Make a blanket or help wind yarn. Okay.
I'm glad you say we stopped. When we went to Pitcairn Island, we just sailed around it and looked at it, and that was it. And passed it by.
Oh, you didn't have anybody visit at all? That's weird.
No, nobody came at our time.
Was that on the
I think
It was on the HAL ship and the time we went to Easter Island.
What? How long ago was that? Do you remember approximately?
8-10 years ago.
Okay.
Before COVID.
I think the mayor this last spring said he wasn't sure what they would do. I wouldn't say it's a guarantee they'll come out to the ship because of the being Bounty Day.
Oh, okay.
But I think they probably will want to try to come out, and that may be why we're leaving quickly. But I don't think they'll do the burning of the Bounty while we're there before noon.
Yeah, they say it's more dramatic at night. Obviously, you can imagine.
Right, and that's what I think.
And they also say it has more meaning to the local residents themselves rather than tourists. So yeah,
I recall this year. Yeah, this year the mayor told us the date we will be there in 28, and of course it was a couple of months before the 28 World was announced. So everybody put, frankly, together a pretty good schedule for the first third based on the date we'd be in Pitcairn, and that was firm, just not announced to us. So
yeah,
you may learn more if we're there in 29, if you're there this next year.
Linus on the ship.
Okay, that's all of my prepared slides. And if people want to hang around and chit chat about any other questions, I'll do that. Other than that, though, that really concludes the prepared presentations. So thank you all for joining.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Pete. Appreciate it.